Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's me again, Brad. Thank you so much for joining me again today for this brand new video. And in today's video, we're talking about hair and how to design it and make it look really cool on your characters. If you're a subscriber, thank you as always so much for your support. And if you're new here, my name's Brad, and I'm an animator and an illustrator with over 20 years in the animation industry. And on this channel, we talk about learning to draw and becoming better artists, whether that's for comic books, animation, or video game design. We'll also be talking about software, drawing tablet hardware, comic book artists, the latest comic books, and maybe even some movie stuff. So please subscribe, hit that like button, leave a comment, and together, let's tell some visual stories. Okay, so before we start drawing some hair and hair designs, we're going to need a few heads. So let's sketch out a few different variations of heads and head shapes. Let's get some male characters and female characters here, and we'll start rolling from there. Here is our slightly cartoony, chiseled male character face and head. And from here, we'll draw a more typical female head. We'll add another variation of a male head here. And then let's go with something with a completely different shape. Let's get a very square-shaped, kind of cartoony, tough guy head maybe. And then we'll clean up this elongated head here. It's kind of a cartoony, kind of an older character, cartoony version maybe. I kind of like this one. And then the final character will create just a younger female head here. For tutorials on how to draw and set up the character facial features, I covered those in previous videos, and I'll leave links to that in the description below. Now let's begin with our cartoony, chiseled male heroic face here. First, I'll draw out his hairline, and then I'm gonna look at the design of his head and figure out that his hair should have a similar kind of angular shape to complement the design of his face. I'll outline the shape of his hair in a way that gives this character a silhouette, something that is stereotypical of a male action-y hero, maybe a military type. A good silhouette can sometimes offer familiar character traits before we've even met the character. Just simply by the shape, we know what type of character he is. Let's look at a couple other unmistakable silhouettes. Obviously, there's no mistaking this one. It's a given. Let's look at another one. A samurai from feudal Japan, maybe? Or a certain Dark Lord of the Sith. I know, way too easy, but iconic silhouettes nonetheless. And definitely something to think about when you're designing the shape of your character, whether it's their entire figure or just the design of their head and hair. As I continue drawing this character's brushed back hairstyle, notice I'm not using a lot of individual line work. I'm keeping the design of his hair in smaller shapes and chunks. Here's a quick look at the cleanup of that hairstyle, just giving it kind of shapes that look kind of like leaves or teardrops. Notice I'm not connecting every line or adding too much detail to the hair, but adding a little shadow line beneath certain hair shapes can add a lot of depth to the design. And here's a closer look at some of those leaf-like teardrop shapes that I use for this hair style or design. And if our heroic male character is Black or African American, then there's literally no shortage of hairstyles to choose from. A common style is the short cropped buzz with a bit of a fade, and I would draw that very close to the head like this, with a short rounded texture along the outline of the head. And then I would add a dark shadow center area with a slight rim light going around the surface. Let's take a quick look at another style. And remember, always look for some photo reference for different hairstyles. And believe me, there are no shortage of hairstyles for black men, young and old. For this rough design, I'm using similar leaf-like shapes that I used in the previous design, but I'm adding more of them and all throughout the character's hair to give him that short locks style. And here's how that would look with a slightly cleaned up look. What do you think? Now let's give our traditional female character some long flowing locks. I'll begin by indicating her hairline and then choosing a part for her hairstyle. I'm initially unsure of what kind of hairstyle I want to give her, so I'm just gonna loosely rough out the entire design to begin. I like to think of long flowing hair as a series of long ribbons with slight curls at the end, and then they're just kind of overlapped on top of one another. Let's take a closer look at what I mean with this 3/4 front rough sketch. We'll indicate the hairline, somewhere around halfway between the top of the brows to the top of her head. And long straight hair tends to follow the shape of the head, flowing inwards to the neck before resting on the shoulders. And here's a look at those long ribbon-like shapes for straight hair that I would design. Now, let's clean up this long hair and keep those ribbon shapes in mind as we go. I'll add a lot of S-shaped curves as we go, and just keeping in mind the idea of these large ribbon shapes are on top of one another and giving a little shadow and depth between them. You can add a lot of detail to long flowing hair, but try to keep the detail in check, otherwise you might lose the sense of shape and volume. And here's the end result with a little shading for depth. There is a fair amount of detail in this, but not so much that it becomes just a mess of lines. So when you're adding detail, remember less is always more. But what if we wanted to give our character a more African textured hairstyle? Well, the same principles apply, only texture and volume would be quite different. And it's always a good idea, with any hairstyle, to find some photo reference. For this braided top knot, I would simply design a loose, rough shape first, before going in later to add more of the fine detail and braided texture. I think this style looks alright. What do you think? Now, if I wanted to go with a more natural African hairstyle with ringlets, I might go with something like this shape. And I would draw a texture like this for the outline of those tight curls and ringlets. I'd also add that detail for the layering. But again, remember, keep your detail in check, or else things could start looking cluttered or overly messy. Well, I think that about covers most of the concepts that I use for designing and drawing hair on my characters. So I think I'll close this video out by adding a couple more hairstyles to the already designed character heads that we did at the beginning. We'll give this younger character a shorter bob cut with some bangs. Notice the shapes again that I used previously. And next we'll give this older character some longer curls with a receding hairline. Well, I think that about does it. Please let me know in the comments if you like this video and if you got anything out of it. And if you have any questions, please write it in the comments and let me know. Also, let me know if there's something you want to see me add in the future to a video. Well, I think that's about it. Thank you so much again for watching. Please subscribe, leave a comment, and hit that like button, and I will see you in the next one.